Hi everybody, Brother Lloyd here, going to show you some stuff on the B-flat clarinet. So before we get into some of our notes, I want to do a refresher on some of the fundamental things we talked about in the last video. And as you can see, the quality on this one is going to be a little better. Last time, honestly, all I had was a music stand, a cardboard box, and my cell phone. So hopefully now I'll upgrade things a little better. So remember, number one is breathing. Okay, so if you're breathing like this, you're going to be disappointed in the tone that you get out of your instrument. Now, obviously, I exaggerated that some with my shoulders, but what I want you to do is breathe just kind of in a natural way. Don't think about it. I know that's asking a lot after I just told you not to think about it, but do your best. Like walk away, come back, and just kind of breathe normal. And what you'll notice is you actually breathe pretty shallow. You don't breathe nice and full and deep. Generally, we take small little just kind of like that. But what you want to do is when you breathe, you can see the chest puffs out just a little bit. Shoulders rise some, but you want to breathe in 3 dimension, okay? And what you'll find is your lung capacity is not really what it needs to be to where breathing in a musically friendly way feels good. In fact, it may be uncomfortable a little bit, especially if you have some allergies going on or pollen, stuff going on with your sinuses. Breathing deeply may actually cause a little discomfort. That's okay. You need to push through it, do some exercises, and just breathe deeply. Another good way to think of it is, you're breathing in the flower, so through your nose, and you're blowing out the candles. So evacuate the air as quickly as possible. Be careful not to hyperventilate. If you do that a couple of times, you're going to feel lightheaded. But really what you want to do is you want to really flood your body with oxygen as part of your warm-up process to really get yourself primed. Because remember, playing an instrument, this is not just about you telling this thing what to sound like down here, but it's an extension of your physical body. So you are physically a musical instrument. The difference is instead of using your voice to sing, this is your voice, okay? And so you're using some mechanics to produce a different sound that a singer would not be able to sing. So think of yourself as part of the instrument, and you are powering it with your lung capacity, you're powering it with your embouchure, and in order for all of that effort to be productive, make sure that your reed is on properly. So let's take a look. So last time I struggled showing you guys just how to do this, and so I want to do a couple of reminders on reed placement, okay? So remember, number one, your reed is a very fragile piece of wood. You can chip it. If it's cracked, if it's damaged in any way, it is no good. So I know they're expensive. They can be. Take care of your reeds. Soak them. Take care of them. They'll last longer if you care for them properly. Get a reed guard, something like this, okay? This is a 2-reed guard. There are others out there. I have a 4-reed guard. They're really nice. You can even just use the one that the reed comes in. Generally, though, those are not as high quality, and they're a little more difficult to kind of wiggle their way in sometimes. And I've broken reeds getting them out of the reed guard that they came in, the wrapping. So just pick one up, probably find one for a couple bucks on Amazon or at a music store. So take care of your reed. You obviously need to moisten it before you get started. So very simple. Just a couple of, I feel like they're just kind of common sense things. If you're drinking a sugary beverage, don't play your horn directly after. Go rinse your mouth out. Go brush your teeth. Do something. Gargle some hot water. Get the sugar out of your mouth. You don't want sugar in your horn, okay? That's going to degrade it. And if you're eating, I've seen people in the band at church whipping out chocolate, okay? That's not a good idea. I'm talking woodwind player, okay? If you're eating chocolate while you're playing your horn, the chocolate goes in the horn, okay? And it's going to cake in there and it's going to be nasty. Don't do that for whatever you do. Don't eat sugary things. If you've just eaten a meal, go rinse your mouth out. Get the food particles out of there. Some basic hygiene type things for your horn. Make sure that, okay, so I've talked about those types of things. So what I want to do is, I'm kind of getting out of the shot a little bit here, but I want to show you the mouthpiece again. Okay, the mouthpiece, if I can get it angled in the lighting just right, you can see that there are this flat surface here, okay? And what your goal is to get your reed perfectly centered on this flat surface with just a little sliver, like a crescent moon sliver, tiny, like if you know when you clip your nails, assuming you clip your nails when they're an appropriate length, they're not 3 inches hanging off your hand, but just like so maybe girls maybe not that length, but like think of a guy. Okay, so like when I clip my fingernails, there may be like a 1/16 of an inch or like an 1/8 of an inch, just a little sliver of nail, less than that. Okay, it's a very tiny amount. And so really what's helpful, which sometimes the way our bandstands are at church, usually I notice the stand is way too low, so people are having to look down like this at the stand. It's not good embouchure. It's terrible for breathing, and you can't sometimes, depending on where you sit, you can't really see the director and the music very well. So just a general tip for everybody: lift your stands up some. If you're having to lean over and slouch over to read your music, you can't breathe properly. And if you're not breathing properly, you are starting behind. You are setting yourself up for failure and a terrible sound on your instrument. And you could be a phenomenal player, but have terrible, tonal quality because your breathing is bad. So, placing the reed on the mouthpiece, which I don't know how well you can see this, but what you want to do is, and I'm talking to the very, very beginners here. I know some of you are probably thinking, oh my goodness, we just got onto the 3 new notes already. But we do have some very newbie beginners. So if you want to fast forward a little bit, now I'm obviously the honor system here. Don't fast forward when you really need to hear this. So the reason I brought up the music stands is because a lot of times, I remember when I was learning in school, I'd be sitting in my chair, I had my music stand there, nice white sheet of music, and I would just kind of prop my clarinet up on my leg, and I would just use the white background, the black mouthpiece against that white background. Made it really easy to see just where my reed was at, okay? So once you get your reed on, I like to hold it with my thumb while I'm putting the ligature on. Now, please be very careful, especially if you have a metal ligature. But even if it's a synthetic or leather ligature as well, or like one of these single screw type, this is a great opportunity for you to damage your reed. I mean, I'm being a little funny there. It's not a great opportunity, but it's very easy to do if you're not careful. So with your reed secured in place by your thumb, you're just going to gently make sure, be thorough, to pay close attention to detail. You're going to slip the ligature down. Notice from the screw is going to be on the right. So when you're putting your ligature on, make sure that the screw is on the right side. So think I'm looking that direction, it's on my right. So when you're looking at your clarinet, the screw generally is going to be on your right. And so whenever you put your ligature on, a lot of times your mouthpiece will have like little lines on there. Generally the ligature is going to be below, the top of that ligature is going to be below that. Also, make just to kind of, if you don't have the lines on your mouthpiece, maybe your ligature has a little bump, like you can see here, maybe barely with the camera the way it is, but there's this like little flap. I just center the reed up with that. Basically, remember the goal is to get your reed perfectly flat and centered on the mouthpiece with just a little sliver of mouthpiece viewable from the top. You got to remember, the way this is working is you're blowing a stream of air like this into the mouthpiece, and you have, I'm going to put my horn down right quick, you have a reed that is sitting on top of a mouthpiece, okay? So imagine it's like this, okay? And when you blow, you're forcing this reed right here to vibrate, okay? And the vibration of that reed is what's giving you sound. So just like your vocal folds in your larynx, in your throat, they're together like this, and whenever you push air through them, that forces them to kind of open up like this, and then they do that so fast that it causes vibrations in the air. That's how you hear someone talk, and if they can control that well, they have a beautiful voice. And so what we're trying to do is we are trying to control how that reed vibrates against the mouthpiece. And if you can control that well with your breathing, with your reed placement, and with your embouchure, then you are set up to play these 3 notes that I'm about to teach you very well. So, embouchure. Okay, before we even get to the notes, embouchure. I talked about these things in the last video, but I'm repeating them because if you don't have these fundamentals, you are not going to be a very high quality player. And I'm not being mean, or I'm just being honest. Going through school, the students that I sat by that took seriously the breathing and the embouchure, they were the top players. The ones that kind of did what it, this is how they'd look. They'd sit there, kind of around, you could tell they were kind of hunched over. They didn't have a lot of energy about what they're doing. They're just kind of there. Those were generally not the very, very good players, because in order for you to be a good instrument player, you have to very much so be present with what is your body doing. Breathing wise, remember 3-dimensional breathing. So you're breathing out the chest. You can see my back even goes in a little bit. You're breathing deeply in 3 dimensions, not just up, okay? And you want to really open up your throat, okay? And so you want to build that embouchure. Part of your embouchure is also, what are you doing in your oral cavity? What are you doing with your tongue? What are you doing with the back of your throat? All of these things shape your sound. The more open you are, like that oh kind of sound, the more you are that way, the better off you're going to be. And a really good trick, let me get something over here. I'm going to have to step off camera to do that. The really good trick, I'm getting my swab, so go ahead and get your swab out, okay? This is what you're going to do. Take your swab, and you're going to take your swab, and you're going to cram it in the bell of your horn, okay? Cram it in there. And then what you're going to do, this is a good breathing exercise, by the way. And it's a good open up your oral cavity, open up your chest, open up your mouth, open up everything, because you want a nice, big, resonant sound. A lot of times clarinet players, they sound kind of wimpy and scared, and it's because they're not having that big, full, robust airflow going through them. Sounds silly, but I'm telling you from experience, it makes a difference. So you get your horn like this, and what you're going to do is you're going to put all your fingers down, all your buttons down, and you're going to blow. And what you're going to do is, first of all, really no air is going to come out. But what happens is all that air pressure, it forces your throat open, forces everything open. But you want to relax your tongue, because if you just blow really hard but you're all tense on the inside, it's not going to do its job. So you want to be very open, very big. So kind of like you're blowing up one of those little tiny little water balloons, and they're like impossible to blow up. That's what you're shooting for. So do that after a while, and then take out the bell, take the swab out of the bell, and then you will feel more so what it's supposed to feel like, having a nice open feeling and everything. So, basically the difference sounds like this. Okay, it's kind of like a whiny, kind of like a, I don't know, it just doesn't have a lot of good tone to it, something like this. Volume difference, am I blowing harder? Not really. But I'm having more air power move through. So people who play like this, and you hear how that woo, 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 that like wavering sound. You hear people do that, and the reason is because they are clenched up and they're so tight, and they're trying to force the sound out of their instrument that they don't even have good control of their embouchure, and so you hear that wavery sound. So big, open, full. And then you can't see this, but in my mouth, my tongue, if you can kind of imagine like an S shape, but like on its side. So kind of like, I'm doing a terrible job with my hand. I'm trying to kind of give a good idea. Imagine this is the back of my tongue by my throat. Kind of roll that up a little bit, and it's almost like a slide. So what you want is kind of like get the tongue out of the way a little bit, and imagine you're on a youth trip, and you're going up the roller coaster like ching 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 ching, and you finally get to the top, and then you go down the big hill, whee, down the big hill. That's what your air is doing as it goes out of your mouth. It's like ching 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 ching. It's coming out of your lungs, going up through your larynx, through your pharynx. That's the fleshy bits in the back of your throat, the pharynx, that oral cavity. It goes up and it gets to the top of your tongue, and then woo, like a slide, flies down into your horn, and this beautiful music comes out that everybody can enjoy and get into the spirit with. Because remember, this is a spiritual operation first and foremost, and so we want to have good technique and good skill, but we want to play joyfully, but with skill. So that's what we're trying to impart to you with these band videos. Okay, so embouchure. So I talked to you about how to open up. I talked to you about embouchure. We're about to talk about embouchure. Talked about reed placement. Talked about breathing. All those good things. Okay. How to hold the instrument. So it's actually pretty intuitive how to hold it. I'm just showing you here. So basic 6 tone holes. These little holes are called tone holes, by the way. And your fingers go on them just like you'd think they do. But a couple of things. Okay. If you have really long fingers, you might have a tendency to overshoot. And what's going to happen is you're not going to completely cover the tone hole, and then you're going to get a poor sound. You're going to have air leaking out of your horn, which, unless you have an extremely high-end instrument, you probably have air leaking out of your horn anyway, and that causes trouble. That's basically one of the differences between a beginner horn or like a quality amateur horn and then a professional horn, is essentially how much air leaks out of them. Okay, ideally you want 0, so that way all the wind energy goes through the horn, producing a beautiful sound. But if you're not covering your tone holes, then you're not helping yourself out any. So make sure, no matter how you hold it, whether you're got like this or you're like this, just make sure, however you're holding, whatever's comfortable and natural to you, that you're not pressing these side keys with your right index finger, right? Because if you're kind of curled up like this, you might have a tendency to bump those. And guess what? Those have extra tone holes over here. Okay, so clarinet's a crazy instrument. You've got basic tone holes like a recorder does, but then over the years, like Mozart and his great symphonies and everything, they had a pretty basic clarinet, and they started adding keys and adding keys and adding keys, because humans just don't come with more than 10 fingers. And so they had to add keys to make it to where you could actually open more tone holes. So don't bump those tone holes on this side, these keys opening these tone holes by accident. You don't want to, and so on the back side, you want to be careful with the register key. So this is what allows you to climb into the higher range of the staff, which we're not going to be talking about today. But in the future, hopefully you'll get to a point where you can play beautiful notes in the higher end of the staff. I'm sure you will, so long as you practice some of the things I'm telling you. And just make sure you're not bumping that register key by accident. So your thumb goes over the hole, and yeah, so make sure the tone holes are covered. That's pretty much how you hold the instrument with your hands. Now let's talk about how to hold the instrument with your embouchure, so with your lips, so in your teeth. So some people tend to bite down on the instrument. That's going to really disallow you from having a quality sound. That was just a leaky air sound, because when I'm biting on the reed, I'm not allowing this action to happen. Like we talked about earlier, the vibration can't happen. So no biting on the reed. Now you can rest your top teeth on the mouthpiece. You can do that, but you don't want to just bite into it, okay? You really want the fleshy part of your bottom lip kind of rolled over. I'm going to get a little close here because you really got to see it, okay? So if you don't see a good example of an embouchure, I can't just explain it to you. So what you want to do is chin flat, okay? What you want to do on the sides of your, like on the sides of your mouth, you're trying to bring them in as tight as possible. So pinching them in. So remember, and if you watched the last video, I talked about doing the embouchure exercise QT. So like the word cutie, or the letters Q and T. So QT, QT. I know it's silly. I look crazy right now. I'm doing it for you. QT. Practice that. You can do repetitions. Like people who exercise, they do reps. Do 10 reps and go, and what you want to do is you want to count through it. So like in your mind, you go like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you want to bring it in, bring it out. If you're just sitting there going QT, 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 that's not doing you any good. You're just practicing saying cutie, okay? That's not helpful. You want to really make sure you're actually working the muscles. Just like when you breathe, it feels unnatural because you're forcing your body and muscles, you're forcing your rib cage, all these body parts to move in an unnatural way. Same thing with your embouchure. You're forcing these muscles that normally you just use them to speak or eat food. That's pretty much it. You're not really doing a lot with these muscles, so you're exercising. So basically you are now a bodybuilder, except the only parts of your body you're building are your mouth muscles and your breathing muscles. That's what you have to think about. You have to be disciplined with exercising these things. And what you'll find out is if you breathe properly and you have proper embouchure, it doesn't take as much effort to play your instrument. And then it's more enjoyable, it's more fun. And then you can really have a good time worshiping the Lord and blessing God's people with the talent that He's given you. But it takes work and effort. So don't get discouraged. Just when you're feeling bad about your exercise, just come back and watch me make crazy faces on this video and make you laugh. So, okay, putting the mouthpiece in your mouth with the embouchure set proper. So you got kind of a firm upper lip. Your mouth is pinched in. Your chin is flat, okay? Like this. And then you are ready to play. Okay, now it's going to feel funny at first. And you maybe have kind of a kind of awkward, but what you want to do is you want to get to a place where placing this instrument in your mouth, it's like you meld with the instrument. You and the instrument are now one. Okay, it's not like you're sticking a fork in your mouth with food and it's like, oh, I'm just using this as a tool. I'm just using this as a utensil. Okay, this is not a fork. Let me repeat, this is not a fork. Okay, I'm being a little silly, but what I'm trying to say is you are not just you're not doing something to this horn to make it do something. You're interacting with this horn as you are manipulating this horn, and so when you place it in your mouth, if you have this really just uptight, like, oh, brother Lloyd told me to do my mouthpiece, my embouchure like this, so now I'm just stuck like that. Now, once you get it set, you put your instrument in your mouth, and then you make sure that your embouchure is making a very good seal around this mouthpiece. Okay, and so a lot of times what happens is you start playing, you play a long time, and then this starts having good. I don't know if you could hear all that air coming out, but earlier, like I said, you don't want leaks happening with your tone holes. If you have air leaking from your mouth, your instrument is not performing very well and you're having to work. So when you begin, if you are doing proper breathing and you are doing proper embouchure exercises and you are playing and you're practicing and you begin to get weak and you begin to leak air, you need to take a break. Do not push through. Pushing through is not going to help you. Take a break. Let your mouth rest. Let your embouchure reset. Go kind of smile big and make crazy faces. Kind of get your muscles loosened up. Kind of just relax. Good time to read your Bible. Let your mouth relax. Let the Word of God come in your mind. Okay. If you have a leaky embouchure, your tonal quality is going to be pretty bad. So, you practice the embouchure. You practice using it with the mouthpiece. Don't just do the embouchure, stick the instrument in, start blowing. You got to think detail oriented. You got to think how is what I'm doing affecting this horn, and if you are causing it to have a very good air seal around this mouthpiece, thumbs up for you. Okay. So that pretty much covers the basics on how to actually play the horn. So let me look at the time here. 24 minutes and 15 seconds. So that's a good amount of time. But what you have to understand is when you're in I guess you say a not a professional learning setting, but in a proper learning setting, like in public school, you have people that went to college on their instruments teaching you how to play properly. Like they learn from people with very high degrees and a lot of experience playing these horns. So the first lesson we did, I was in 6th grade. There was no instruments. We had our instruments, we were ready to roll, and said, okay, get out your mouthpiece, put your reed on, and they obviously went through the steps how to put it on properly. And this is what we did. And we went one by one, and we checked, and the band director checked to see, do we have proper embouchure on our horn? And it, you know, he likes to say this is a good way to kill cockroaches, and it's true, because I mean, if you ever do this, that is like, I mean, if you're into duck hunting, maybe this is a good substitute. But I say practice with your mouthpiece. Maybe add the barrel. It'll make the tone a little bit deeper. And you need to practice your embouchure on just the mouthpiece. Just the mouthpiece. Get used to it before you just jump into the deep end of the pool. Because look at this thing. This is a crazy instrument. There's no way you can just pick this up and roll with it. You got to really know what you're doing, okay? So I'm going to show you step by step. So let's go ahead and get started on the band book. So at this point, if you don't have your band book, go grab it. If you don't have a fingering chart, you need to get with somebody. Get your parents to contact Brother Goolsby, or you know, if you're old enough to contact him, you got a phone or something. You can do that. Okay, if the video just did something weird, I had to pause it to go get my laptop charger, so sorry about that. So we've taken some time to talk about the basic fundamentals. This is not a one and done, and I know it's long and you may be bored, but hey, do you have anything else better to do right now? So take time, do it properly, and it will pay off down the road. So, and even if you have already been playing some already and you know a little bit, you probably need to go back and revisit your fundamentals. If you do, then you will find that you like almost instantaneously produce a much better sound. It'll be encouraging to you, and it'll give you a desire to learn how to play the instrument even more so. And you got to remember too, woodwinds are not a projectile, well, not projecting instrument. Hopefully no instruments are projectile. We're not throwing them, but they work best in numbers. My point is, if I'm playing my clarinet and you're playing your clarinet, we're all playing it, but we're out of tune, it sounds bad, we're not playing with strength, there's basically not a woodwind section. Whereas with trumpets, you could have two trumpets on our band and it would probably be enough if they both were, you know, very solid players. If you ever look at it like a symphony orchestra, like look some up on the internet, try to find how many trumpet players there are. Usually two, okay? Now granted, it's predominantly a string-based ensemble, but my point is, woodwinds, like strings, they work together to produce a unified sound. They're not really like Lone Rangers, if you will, like brass can be. They can just, I mean, brass player can play as loud as they want pretty much because of the nature of the instrument. So we have to work together as a unit to produce a quality sound. So that's why I'm hoping you all take the fundamentals seriously so we as a band can improve, because you're a part of that. We're a band together. We're not just individual players. So, band book. If you don't have it, you lost it, or if you don't have your fingering chart, get a hold of Brother Goolsby. They will maybe email you a copy, mail you a copy, somehow get you a copy. But what I'm doing is I'm going to go off camera a little bit to look at the book. We're talking about our first note. It is D. Okay, and so also I recommend a tuner metronome combo. I've got just a standalone device. I bought this back in the days when phones weren't even able to have a tuner on them. Okay, so bought this thing many years ago, and we're gonna play D. Okay, so sorry if the camera's a little shaky. I actually have my laptop on a music stand currently. That is the best I got. Okay. Okay, so D, very exciting, very simple. You just need two fingers. Hopefully you still have them attached to your hand, because if not, you're going to be in trouble. Your thumb over the thumb tone hole. Remember, don't hit the register key. Your index finger over the tone hole just beneath this little weird little elbow key. Okay? And then that's going to be D. Remember, nice big full breathing. Remember the difference between nice full breathing and open embouchure and open mouth and all that stuff, and not is this. Now, I'm sure you've heard that before. Don't let that be you, okay? Don't let that be you. Your instrument is capable of so much more. It's a disservice to everyone who's listening from being robbed of the beautiful sound you can make. Open your whole oral cavity up, your lungs, your throat, your mouth. Get your tongue like that slide, that roller coaster example I gave you earlier. That wind will just flow down that thing and right into your horn. Okay, so thumb, finger, all right, nothing else, okay? And we're not doing any fancy jazz hands or nothing. Just, when you're not putting down tone holes, just kind of hover them above the keyholes. You don't have to just be totally hands off. You don't have to social distance your fingers from your horn. Just kind of let them hang out there. That is D. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is we're going to do 4 beats, rest 4 beats. Play 4 beats, rest 4 beats. Pretty simple, right? So you see me keep looking over here. I'm literally just looking at the band book, following along with y'all. Okay. So let me get my metronome going. And we're going to do just a nice little beat here. Okay. And it's the beat 1. Do, 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 do. Okay. So we'll do 4 beats playing, 4 beats resting. 4 beats playing, 4 beats resting. Here we go. Big breath. 1, 2, 3. You did it. If you couldn't keep up, rewind the video, do it again. Okay, now I want you to notice something I did there. I said 1, 2, 3, and then I played. So I've noticed some people doing this in band. The band director goes, 1, 2, 3, 4. They just breathe like all of a sudden they're trying to suck all the air out of the room. Not only will that make you lightheaded, but your first note is not going to come out well. And actually, you may not even play on the first note. Maybe you're one of those tempted to not play on the first note. You're going to see what everybody else does first. So then the band kind of comes in like a, like one of those old-fashioned records that is getting spun up or something. That doesn't have to be you. You can come in with confidence on that first beat. Just make sure if the song has 4 beats per measure and you're coming in on 1, breathe on 4. Like basically whatever the band director usually says, hey, we're coming in on 3, we're coming in on 2, we're coming in on whatever. When they go 1, 2, just whatever beat they count off before the one you're coming in on, breathe on that last beat, and then you have a nice solid start to whatever you're going to play. That's the way to do it. Moving on to number 3. New note. C. Okay. It's the cousin of D, just with your middle finger covering the middle tone hole. Okay? So, again, breathe deep. Oh, and also remember, you don't want to be playing like this. You are not a trumpet player. And also, you don't want to be playing like this. The angle of your mouthpiece will not allow the vibration to happen like we talked about. So kind of at a 45-degree angle, kind of like this. Imagine your chin. Okay, so here's a good one. Your chin should be parallel with your feet. Okay, if you're doing like this, not only will you look incredibly strange, but you're not going to have a good sound. And it'll interrupt the flow of air through your body. You can hear I'm struggling. It's because I can't get air through. I'm literally clenching up my throat due to pressure. So chin pretty much parallel with your feet, flush with the floor, flat. Okay? Obviously, sometimes you see more experienced players. They get a little bit more, they get into it and they start doing stuff and moving around and stuff. Okay, that's for experienced players. They know how to maintain good embouchure and breathing while being expressive in their physical, movement. Just, keep it simple right now. You're just learning the instrument. Okay, so new note is C. We're going to do 4 beats on, 4 beats off. going to speed the tempo up since we're doing whole notes. Whole notes refer to 4 beats in a note. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3. All right, pretty good. Hope you're keeping up. All right. Moving on to numero 5. Excuse me. Okay, we are going to play B flat. Now, don't let the flat scare you. It's a little extra sign, a little B on the note, but on your instrument, very simple. You went from D to C to B flat, right there. That's it. Now, I like B flat because it starts to get kind of in that lower register. You really start to fill out the sounds. It's fun to play. All right. So in this, so number 5, new note, B flat. We'll do 4 beats of B flat, 4 beats of rest, 4 beats of B flat, 4 beats of rest. Here we go. I'm gonna bump the tempo up. Okay, this is 120 beats per minute. In other words, 2 beats per second, double the speed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4, play, 2, 3, 4, rest, 2, 3, 4. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Rest, 2, 3, 4. Rest, 2, 3, 4. All right, you've got 3 notes down. You feel accomplished. You're doing good work. I trust, I can't hear you, but I trust at this point, if you're following all of my instructions, I bet you're making a pretty good sound right now. Provided your horn is in good shape, and provided your reed's in good shape, and you followed all my instructions, you probably sound like a pro right now. All right, thank y'all so much. I hope you made it to the end of the video. You know, it's really awkward talking to yourself in a video, but I really enjoyed going through all the steps and just thoroughly, step by step, showing you everything I know pretty much to do with all the breathing and the mouthpiece setup and the embouchure and opening up all your oral cavity and all the stuff I talked about. It's been fun. I hope you, I know you'll find it educational. I hope you found it mildly entertaining. And we'll get back with you next week. And we will pick up where we left off. So signing off for now. Good luck, and make sure you are practicing. You need to be practicing about 15 minutes a day. What this will do is it helps your muscles in your chest and all your cartilage and your ligaments and your tendons and all your bones and all your muscles and everything and your lungs themselves to get all used to being exercised like that. Same thing with all your oral cavity. Remember that tip I gave you? Shove your swab into your bell and then breathe deeply. And try to open up your oral cavity. You might get a little lightheaded a little bit. Remember, trying to open everything up. And just remember care instructions. So as you finish, number 1, take care of your reed. So you unscrew your ligature. At this point, your reed may slip off. So, you know, it's a good idea to kind of have it somewhat flat so it doesn't just go flying off on the floor. Clarinet reeds are very thin. And they break easily, and it's very frustrating when you do, because especially if you get a good one and it breaks, it's terrible. It's so disappointing. So get you a good reed guard. Make sure when you're placing your horn somewhere, you don't just toss it onto the seat next to you. You know, I mean, ideally, you have a stand to put it on, and it doesn't fall over. If you have to lay it down, do not lay it on top of the key work. That's how keys get bent. Lay it kind of flat like this, okay? So it's obviously not going to stay on the thumb rest, but kind of balance it like that. But whatever you do, please don't just leave it sitting on a chair out in the bandstands. I have had my horn broken at the church, up in the bandstands. Yes, this key right here, not on this actual clarinet, on the other one I have, this key right here somebody was being irresponsible, but you cannot trust that the people in the bands are necessarily going to be watching out for your stuff. So put your horn away. Put it on a stand. If you're not going to put it away, so a lot of times I will leave my horn out, but I leave it on a stand, and I have a mouthpiece guard. So if you don't have one, get one, and that will protect your mouthpiece. Because if this chips, that's game over. You're done. You got to get a new mouthpiece. If this chips, you're fighting an uphill battle perpetually, and you don't want to do that to yourself. Because playing the clarinet is really an enjoyable experience. It is one of the most beautiful instruments. It has such an interesting sound. And so remember, you're putting your reed up nice and gently, protecting the tip of it so it doesn't break. Reed guard. Remember, whenever you're putting your instrument up, you will want to monitor how difficult it is to twist the pieces apart. If it's extremely difficult, a little cork grease goes a long way. And I mean that. You don't need to lather it up with cork grease. Just a little coating of it. Put it on there. Let it sit, for a couple hours. Put together. Lets that cork grease get all soaked in. And then, put everything up. And then you must swab your instrument. Very gross story I'll share with you. When I was in the 6th grade, so I was about the age of some of you. A lot of y'all learning this right now are of this age. The school year ended. I put my horn up under my bed. As a bad clarinet student, I did not take it out very often in practice. I decided to take it out a couple of weeks probably after school was over. I pulled my instrument out, and inside of it, growing, was mold. And it was gross. White, fuzzy mold all on the inside of my instrument. So please heed my warnings. Swab your horn. Okay? It takes a simple step. And if you can pick up a silk one of these, it's even better, especially if you have a really high-end clarinet. The silk one is better. So I've used a cloth one for years, but I'm just letting you know silk is a better way to take care of it. So once you swab it out, if you can actually track down some pad savers, they're like little fuzzy. They look like brush bottle cleaners or something, brush cleaners. Just slip it down in the tube, and they'll save your pads. So that's about it. Thank y'all so much. God bless. Remember, we're doing this as a way to be an instrument and a vessel to praise God and help pull on the Spirit for His people. And so it is an honor and a privilege to have the aptitude, the ability to even be able to learn an instrument. So I hope that you are feeling encouraged and spiritually minded in your pursuit. As the scripture says, do all things as unto the Lord. And that includes learning how to play a clarinet. So thanks, and see you next time.